Trending today, the long and drawn-out Supreme Court confirmation for Judge Neil Gorsuch has finally, and you can once and for all call him Justice Neil Gorsuch. Feels good, doesn't it? And he was confirmed in the Senate today by a vote of 54 to 45. And we're going to discuss that here in just a moment with our own Barry Nussbaum, our political analyst here. But it's funny because this news has just about gotten swept under the rug because of all the news, of course, from the bombings. The interesting thing was, I don't know, do we have that Chris Matthews cut? We are going to play that at the end of the show. I want to play it now. You don't have it right now? Can we play it right now? Oh, that. Oh, I know why we're playing it at the end of the show. Okay, no, it's going to be part of a package we're going to play at the end of the show. But, you know, anyone who right now wants to draw partisan lines on this is really on my last nerves. That's all I wanted to say before I introduce you, of course, to Barry. Good to see you, Barry. Thanks for being with us today. Your thoughts immediately as this happened.
Which happened, because I wasn't hearing you due to technical difficulties.
Of course, of course. As the Gorsuch nomination, has it occurred to you that we really have the Supreme Court again?
Yeah, it's an extraordinarily big event, and it got overshadowed in the news all day today because of what's going on, obviously, in Syria. I'm ecstatic that the Supreme Court, which has quite a backlog, actually, of cases, is now going to be the deliberative body it's supposed to be. And it's back in balance for conservatives and for more moderates and one swing vote. And they've got a lot of work to do. I can't wait till the Trump immigration rulings get to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, well, I even have my own part of this I'm looking forward to, where the state of California has made my husband's job illegal, and it looks like that's going to be headed for the Supreme Court. So and that's not a conservative liberal issue necessarily. It's just more about a free market sort of thing. But Barry, do you suspect that Gorsuch will be as conservative as we think, or do you think that he could surprise us with some more moderate votes?
From reading a lot of commentary about his past decisions, he's a strict constitutionalist and an originalist. He really does want to know what it was the founders were trying to do, and he really wants to get the court out of the lives of most American citizens. And I'm very appreciative of that. I think activist judges have gotten too much involved in putting their own opinions into their rulings. And you saw that over the last several weeks, Dr. G, with what happened in regards to very, very ridiculous creative rulings by judges in courts across the country in regards to his executive orders on immigration. The far-reaching judges that want to inject their own personal political or personal social beliefs into legislation that they legislate from the bench is not what the courts are supposed to do, and certainly not appeals courts. I'm very grateful that Gorsuch got through. I'm sad that it took the nuclear option to get him there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the nuclear option because that is a problem. I mean, I don't think any of us like to see that happen, but we didn't like it when Harry Reid initialized that whole process either. But what will this mean for the next opening on the Supreme Court? Now that we have used this, and I call it the Harry Reid option, but now that we've used this, what will that mean the next time around? Should the Democrats have just gone along with Gorsuch in hopes that they could save their tantrum throwing for the next nominee?
Yeah, honestly, what they did by forcing the hand of the Republicans in the Senate, and that's what they did, it caused the nuclear option to be used, which basically from now on will make the Senate filibuster proof, which means every single nominee that Trump puts forward from now on will be advanced to a full floor vote, and a simple majority of 51 senators will confirm it. So what this guarantees is if Trump, let's just say, serves only one term, chances are he's going to have one or two more nominees come through the court. There's at least two current Supreme Court justices that are hanging on by threads just because they're very old and not to able to function anymore. And what will happen, and I guarantee this will happen, is the Senate will not allow a filibuster on any more nominations. That's Harry Reid's legacy. He destroyed the difference between the Senate and the House. Keep in mind, historically, the Senate is the deliberative body that required 60 votes to get anything done, which caused the parties to conciliate, to negotiate, to find common ground. He destroyed that with his changes several years ago when the Democrats were the majority party. Now the Republicans are reaping what Harry Reid sowed.
Mm. And so what do you think this will mean in terms of the rest of the way that, I mean, you combine this, you look at what's happened with Syria, you look at, there were even a lot of lefties who were saying that this whole thing in Syria was the right move. I happened to flip stations last night to do a little, counterintelligence work there, and learned that there were a lot of people, I think with the exception of Chris Matthews, we have quite the clip for you here at the end of the show, but with the exception of Chris Matthews and maybe just a couple of others, by and large, people were saying this was long overdue, and there was a tiny little air of bipartisanship, if only a flicker for a moment. But you combine this Gorsuch situation, and that we did have to use the Harry Reid option, and the situation in Syria, do you think the Democrats get off the Russia narrative, or do you think they stay on it?
Well, the sad thing is, and this doesn't apply just to Syria, I think it applies to the court. It's going to apply to the replacement for the disaster that is Obamacare. The Democrats cannot get over the fact that they lost the White House when, in their minds, they should have won. And for some reason, instead of working together or having any kind of across-the-aisle cooperation, they believe, led by, especially in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, that they have to fight to the death against any agenda item put forth by the majority party. So I think you're going to see that kind of aggressiveness on everything. I mean, for example, some of the Democrats in the Senate this morning were saying that President Trump should have come for permission to send the missiles into Syria when the law, at least over, I think the count was 125 times, U.S. presidents have done exactly what Donald Trump did today. He doesn't require under the Constitution or any existing legislation their permission to do a missile strike. Right. So to say that he's acting outside of the bounds of the Constitution is not only constitutionally and legally wrong, it sends the message that we're just going to fight about everything. And at some point, Dr. G, America, the American citizens that are still engaged in politics are going to say, hey, enough's enough.
Yeah. Well, you hope so. Anyway, Barry, thank you so much for being with us. Coming up next, our Dr. Gina rapid fire round, but I have some homework for you. Head over to drginaclub.com. Sign up for the Youtoo America Club, where you can take us on the go and on demand. Use the promo code GINA, and I'll get your first month free. Stay with us, more in a moment.